In his great essay, Politics in the English Language, George Orwell discusses how language is used and abused by those who would control us, who would control our minds, who would control our ways of thinking, our modes of thinking, who would essentially teach us not to think, teach us simply to obey through an automatic process by which they control our language. If they control our language, they control our thoughts, and if they control our thoughts, they control us. Now, yesterday I discussed briefly the how the term quarantine has suddenly been transitioned, shall we say, from one meaning to another seamlessly over a very short period of time. And I just wanted to briefly highlight that today because I think it's worth pointing out. In addition to how our would-be controllers have suddenly come up with terms and phrases that were not in public discourse, even a month ago, and now they're suddenly everywhere, most notoriously social distancing. They would control us through these kinds of terms, these kind of technocratic sounding terms, these scientific sounding terms, which are supposed to, again, lay a hold of us and get us, to hook us by the kind of primal fear of contagion, and get us to turn off critical thought about what's really going on. But also, and I just want to make this short and sharp because I think it's an important thing to highlight, and it's something I talked about yesterday, but it was in the midst of talking about a bunch of other stuff. Please do note how the term quarantine has suddenly been changed. Quarantine, as far as I know, throughout all of human history, has always meant you take people who are sick or people who are who show a likelihood of being sick. You take them, or people who have been exposed to illness, to say a plague or something. You take them and make it so that they cannot leave a certain area. In other words, the quarantine affects the sick, right? This is how quarantine has always been used, as far as I know, throughout human history. Suddenly, in our very weird times, quarantine has come to mean keeping everybody away from everybody else, in isolation from everyone else. And again, there was that little bit that I heard on CNN at the gym when they had it on in the locker room before they closed the gym down, that made me just tear the plug out of the wall, where the newsreader said we have to act as if we already have the virus. That's what's incumbent upon us. Then it started to click in my head. This is where they're going with this quarantine notion, and how quarantine is now being used, not not to mean what it has always meant, which is to isolate the sick in order to preserve the health of the body politic, the larger number of people who are well, but rather to treat everyone as if he were already a contagion, and to treat everyone as if he were already a danger to everyone else. It must be noted, and I don't think I've heard anyone note it before, and I'm not laying claim to some profound insight here, or anything like that, because it doesn't seem, you don't really have to go that far to figure this out, but I don't know how many are really taking that step, and I wanted to just, push you along to make that step, to see how they are changing the language in order to try to control us through the more primordial parts of us, which is fear, and how we must resist that, and how we must be aware Again, and I would recommend to anyone who hasn't read George Orwell's Politics in the English Language, give it a read. It's not very long. It won't take very long to read. It's an enjoyable read, and it will open your eyes to how language is manipulated by our would-be controllers. So beware of other terms that they're either inventing or that they're suddenly changing the meaning of. But the big one, the word of the day, is quarantine. Think about how that word has been, again, seamlessly transitioned into meaning something that it basically never meant before. So just something to think about. Thanks for watching. Andy Nowicki, altrightnovelist.com, lowstatusnovelist.blogspot.com.